It's time for the news.
The Chief of Staff of the National Army, Major General Said Shangriha, has indicated that Algeria is convinced that dealing with the causes of crises and international and regional insecurity require the respect of international law away from any kind of foreign interference. And the President of Western Sahara and Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Brahim Maghali, has hailed Algeria's support to the Sahrawi people's legitimate fight for freedom and independence. And the Army Chiefs of Staff of the ECOWAS member countries will be meeting in 2 days to examine the possible military intervention in Niger. And the Court of Georgia has indicted former U.S. President Donald Trump and 18 others for their presumed attempts to reverse the results of the 2020 election in the state of Georgia. Those were the major developments. Now the Food News edition. Good afternoon. The Chief of Staff of the National Army, Major General Said Shangriha, has taken part via video conference in the 11th Conference on International Security in Moscow, Russia, at the invitation of the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation. In his speech, Mr. Shangriha conveyed the greetings of the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, the Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, as well as his best wishes for the success of the conference. He also expressed his gratitude to the Russian Federation for the invitation, which constitutes an opportunity to present the Algerian approach in terms of dealing with the challenges and security threats to which the Middle East and the African continent are confronted. And the Chief of Staff of the National Army indicated that Algeria is convinced that the serious management of the causes generating crises and which feed instability as well as international and regional insecurity require the respect of international law away from any kind of foreign interference. He said this necessarily requires providing the necessary aid and support to the African countries to enable them to develop themselves inclusive solutions to the continent's problems. At the end of his speech, the Army General underlined that Algeria aspires, through her participation to this conference, to build the bridges of constructive and fruitful dialogue and to make a common and multidisciplinary understanding that promotes peace and security as well as development and progress of all peoples of the world. The Minister of Solidarity, Family and Women's Issues, Kauthar Kriko, has discussed with her Tanzanian counterpart ways and means to share experience in the social sector between Algeria and Tanzania. In a conversation via video conference, the two ministers tackled ways and means to reinforce cooperation and exchange experience and expertise in the social sector, notably in terms of women's empowerment, as well as taking charge of the elderly and people with specific needs. President of Western Sahara and Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Brahim Maghali, has hailed Algeria's support to the Sahrawi people's legitimate fight for freedom and independence. Speaking at the closing ceremony of the 11th Summer University of the Polisario Front and Sahrawi Republic executives at the University of Boumerdès, President Ghali expressed appreciation and gratitude to Algeria for holding such events that reflect its solidarity with Western Sahara.
Once again, we can't but express our thanks, appreciation and gratitude to our brotherly country, Algeria, government and people for its generous embrace, which concretely reflects the strength of the unswerving Algerian position that supports unconditionally the Sahrawi people's fight for freedom and independence. This Summer University of the Sahrawi leaders has become, with time and throughout its different editions, a great symbol of solidarity that reflects the strength and solidity of the brotherly and deep relations linking the Algerian and Sahrawi peoples.
Meanwhile, President Ghali said the hostile policy of the Moroccan occupier is no longer limited to support for criminal gangs and terrorism, but goes even further with suspicious alliances sealed with exceptionist or expansionist colonial powers to promote agendas aimed at peace and security in the region. In the face of this Moroccan threat, President Ghali said he was confident in the ability of the peoples of the region to mobilize together and show responsibility to put an end to these plans aimed at the exploitation of their wealth. He added that the resumption of the Sahrawis' armed struggle came in response to the occupier's barbaric practices against defenseless Sahrawis, civilians, and its plundering of natural resources in the face of disturbing silence, if not conspiracy, on the part of certain parties in the Security Council, as he put it. Meanwhile, Sahrawi president commended the practices of, or condemned the practices of oppression, harassment, restriction and blockade exercised against the Sahrawi people in the occupied territories and southern Morocco, calling on the United Nations to intervene without delay to stop these flagrant violations of human rights. He also called on the United Nations to assume its full responsibility to decolonize Western Sahara as stipulated in the UN Charter.
This is an opportunity to call on the United Nations to assume its full responsibility to decolonize the last colony in Africa as stipulated by the UN Charter and the UN relevant resolutions, and also to enable the MINURSO to carry out its mission aimed at organizing a referendum on self-determination and independence.
And in the same regard, President Ghali insisted on the responsibility of the African Union to seize the flagrant violation of Morocco of its constitutive act and to put an end to the illegal military occupation of territories in the Sahrawi Republic. President Ghali added that the European Union also has to comply with the provisions of international law and international humanitarian law in Western Sahara and to fully respect the rulings of the European Court of Justice, which stipulate the nullity of any agreement with Morocco concerning the occupied territories of Western Sahara, considering that these are two separate and distinct countries. And still regarding this year's edition of the Summer University of the Polisario Front and Sahrawi Republic executives at the University of Boumerdès, Sahrawi Foreign Minister Mohamed Sidati hailed this year's edition and also commended Algeria's solidarity with Western Sahara.
We
can say that this year's edition was very special and all conditions were gathered to show solidarity with the Sahrawi people and their legitimate fight. It was also an opportunity for experience exchange and it showed the solidarity of Algeria with the fight of the Sahrawi people. Thus, I would like to emphasize that the Summer University was a great success.
14 hours, 38 minutes, Algiers time. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International and to Niger now. The army chiefs of staff of the member countries of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, will be meeting in 2 days' time to examine a possible military intervention in Niger. The meeting scheduled to take place 4 days ago was postponed for technical reasons, and earlier the ECOWAS, the member countries, agreed to privilege a peaceful settlement of Niger's crisis through diplomatic means, reiterating that the recourse to force would be the last option to be considered by the organization. In this connection, Malian leader Assimi Goïta and Russian President Vladimir Putin advocated a peaceful settlement of the conflict in Niger during a telephone conversation today. The two officials insisted on the importance of addressing the situation prevailing around Niger only through political and diplomatic means. It's worth recalling that the situation in Niger was at the center of a meeting held yesterday by the African Union Peace and Security Council in Addis Ababa. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. And the leaders of the major humanitarian organizations have affirmed that the international community has no excuse for its delay in providing assistance and ease the sufferings of Sudan's population. During a meeting held in Geneva, they noted that women were the most particularly hit as they face the violence and rape during the conflict and are deprived of psychological assistance and of an adequate medical care. The leaders of the major UN agencies and private organizations, including Save the Children and CARE, said the appeals made so far could help about 19 million people in Sudan and in the neighboring countries as well. The UN has made 2 appeals to raise $2.57 billion to finance aid to Sudan and to those refugees who fled the country. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. And to the Middle East now, 2 Palestinian youngsters were killed in an assault launched today at dawn by the Israeli army against a refugee camp in the West Bank. At least 1 Palestinian was arrested during the Israeli assault. Meanwhile, tents were erected by Jewish settlers on land belonging to Palestinians in a village south of the town of Nablus. The official in charge of the settlement activities in the northern part of the West Bank was quoted by the news agency Wafa as saying that such a process is used by the Jewish settlers to extend their settlements and confiscate more Palestinian land. And the Russian army has affirmed having destroyed key military and industrial sites in bombardments that hit several regions in the western part of Ukraine, including Lviv. The Russian Defense Ministry stated that all targeted sites were hit by bombardments carried out overnight by the army. Meanwhile, 3 workers were killed in an attack targeting a plant of the Swedish SKF company in Lutsk in the northwestern part of Ukraine. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. The court of Georgia has indicted former U.S. President Donald Trump and 18 other people for their presumed illicit attempts to reverse the results of the 2020 election in the state of Georgia. This is the 4th indictment in less than 6 months for Donald Trump, who is campaigning to regain his position as U.S. President in 2024. The prosecutor said in a press conference in Atlanta that they have until August 25 to appear voluntarily before Georgia's justice. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. A local political official has been assassinated in Ecuador less than a week after the assassination of a candidate to the presidential election scheduled for August 20th. Local police said the victim was shot dead in his dwelling in the locality of San Mateo by 2 men who came on a motorcycle and ran away after the murder. Late Pedro Briones was a member of the Citizens' Revolution movement of former Ecuadorian President Rafael Correa in the coastal province of Esmeraldas that borders Colombia. 6 Colombians have been arrested as part of investigation into the murder, and 1 was immediately killed after the attack by the candidate's bodyguards. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, 14 hours 43 minutes, Algiers time, and time now for the headlines. The Chief of Staff of the National Army, Major General Said Chengriha, has indicated that Algeria is convinced that dealing with the causes of crises and international and regional insecurity require the respect of international law away from any kind of foreign interference. And the President of Western Sahara and Secretary General of the Polisario Front, Brahim Ghali, has hailed Algeria's support to the Sahrawi people's legitimate fight for freedom and independence. And the Army Chiefs of Staff of the ECOWAS member countries will be meeting in 2 days' time to examine the possible military intervention in Niger. The Court of Georgia has indicted former U.S. President Donald Trump and 18 others for their presumed attempts to reverse the results of the 2020 election in the state of Georgia. 14 hours 44 minutes Algiers time. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, and that was our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our health magazine presented by Mohammed Khatel.
and welcome to this new edition of your weekly program, The Health Magazine, devoted this week to sunburn, especially in the midst of the heat waves that are hitting the world and our country in particular. Sunburn is the term for damage caused by overexposure to UV rays from the sun or other sources, such as sun lamp or tanning bed. Sunburn can vary from mild to severe. Sunburn can cause pain and burning, and according to studies, it can also increase the risk of skin cancer, wrinkles, brown spots, and freckles. The skin may appear swollen, possibly with blisters. People with any skin tone can experience sunburn. Fair or lighter skin typically turns pink or red, but darker skin tones may become darker. The extent and severity of sunburn will depend on the person's skin type and level of exposure to the sun. In this program, we will learn more about how sunburn can affect a person, what to do if it happens, when to seek medical help, and how to help prevent sunburn. In medical terms, sunburn involves inflammation leading to erythema, i.e. a rash, and edema, i.e. swelling, due to the buildup of fluids. It also involves changes to skin cells. It triggers the development of sunburn cells, which can become cancerous, and a reduction of mast cell, which play a role in the immune system. The symptoms of sunburn vary between people. Sunburn can affect anyone, but those with lighter skin are more susceptible. Following exposure, the skin may become hot, sensitive to the touch, painful, irritated, itchy, or blistered. Light skin may turn red, darker skin may change to darker tone. Symptoms of severe sunburn can affect the whole body. They include fever, chills, headache, nausea and vomiting, a general feeling of being unwell. A person with severe sunburn may need medical attention. In extreme cases, heat exhaustion can occur, or more severely, heat stroke. If a person experiences the following, someone should seek immediate medical advice: low blood pressure, fainting and dizziness, rapid pulse, general pain throughout the body, extreme weakness, shallow breathing, and changes in behavior such as irritability, confusion, difficulty thinking, or hallucinations. A doctor will diagnose heat exhaustion when the core body temperature is higher than usual after an exposure, but not higher than 40 degrees Celsius. In a person with heat stroke, the core body temperature will be over 40 degrees Celsius. Heat stroke is a life-threatening condition that needs urgent attention. Now, what are the different severities of sunburn? A person can expect the following with sunburn. A rash usually appears 2 to 6 hours after exposure. Skin symptoms peak around 12 to 24 hours after exposure, and the skin peels and flakes off around 4 to 7 days later. If sunburn occurs, a person should do the following: get out of the sun and preferably go indoors, avoid further sun exposure until the sunburn heals, cool the skin with a damp cloth or towel, or take a cool bath, apply moisturizer or after sun cream such as aloe vera, take over-the-counter medications such as ibuprofen or other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications, apply hydrocortisone cream to reduce inflammation and itching, drink extra water to help prevent dehydration, avoid touching or breaking small blisters to reduce the risk of infection. Blisters protect the skin. Avoid scratching, picking at, or removing peeling skin. Wear loose-fitting clothes while the skin heals. In case of severe sunburn, a doctor may prescribe oral steroids to help reduce inflammation. For severe dehydration or heat stress, they may recommend intravenous fluids. Some treatments that people use for sunburn can make symptoms or skin damage worse. Do not apply butter to a burn on the skin. Do not use petroleum jelly. Do not apply ice or ice packs. The best way to avoid sunburn is to manage the way people expose their skin to sunlight. This includes sitting in locations with shade, wearing clothing that covers the body, preferably that is made of tightly woven fabric, wearing a wide-brimmed hat, protecting the eyes with sunglasses, avoiding going out in the hottest part of the day, always wearing sunblock of SPF plus 30, and reapplying it regularly, considering extra protection for the face, neck, trunk, and parts not usually exposed to the sun. Some sun exposure is essential for the body to produce vitamin D, but doctors do not recommend sun exposure without protection because of the risk of skin cancer. Instead, they recommend dietary sources such as fatty fish and fortified foods. A person is more likely to experience sunburn if they have vitiligo, alopecia, albinism, and photosensitivity due to systemic lupus erythematosus, porphyria, the use of some drugs such as tetracycline, and certain genetic conditions. Sunburn is more likely to occur in the following conditions: in locations near the equator, at high altitudes, when the sun is high in the sky, when the sky is clear, when UV light is reflected, for example, by water, ice, or snow, when using a sun lamp. People should be especially careful in these situations. Sunscreens and sunblocks are commercial preparations that block UV light when people apply them to the skin. They have an SPF rating based on the screen's ability to prevent sunburn. The higher the SPF rating, the more protection from UVB rays a person can expect, and the less direct skin damage that should occur. The sunscreen should also offer protection from UVA radiation. UVA radiation does not cause sunburn, but it does contribute to skin aging and an increased risk of skin cancer. Many sunscreens provide broad-spectrum protection, meaning that they protect against both UVA and UVB radiation. People should apply sunscreen as follows. Use plenty to cover the body. Most people only use 25 to 50% of what they need. Pay attention to the tops of the ears, the feet, the neck, and other places that are easy to forget. Apply 15 minutes before exposure. Apply to dry skin. Reapply every 2 hours or after swimming or sweating. Use a lip balm with SPF plus 30. Check any instructions on the packaging before use. As concerns grow about damage to the environment, some countries are now banning sunscreens that are not reef-friendly. Sunscreens can be damaging in other way too, but more choices are less harmful. When looking for a sunscreen, Save the Reef recommends opting for products that contain micro-sized or non-nanoparticles, as these are less toxic than nanoparticles. Use a lotion rather than a spray or mist-in sunscreen, as lotions are less likely to be harmful to human health. Choosing one with smallest amount of plastic and packaging necessary. Finding a sunscreen that does not contain the polluting ingredients listed on the HEL list. To conclude this program, we should take away that sunburn can occur if a person spends too long in the sunlight. It can cause burns to the skin. Those with lighter skin are more susceptible, but anyone with any skin type can have sunburn. Home treatments can usually relieve discomfort, but if a person develops a fever, faintness, or change in consciousness, they need immediate medical attention. Ways of helping prevent sunburn including limiting time spent in the sun and taking protective measures such as using sunscreen, staying in the shade, and wearing clothes that cover the body. And with this, we come to the end of this week's edition of the Health Magazine. Don't forget to join us next week with a new topic and new recommendations for your well-being and the well-being of your family and friends. Goodbye.
Program Destination Algeria. I'm Jamal Slimani. There are a number of great destinations in Algeria just waiting to be discovered. A curious mixture of cultures and influences, Algeria has something interesting to see in just about every city. The country is also the first largest on the African continent, so you can be sure that there are plenty of towns and cities to visit. Let's visit Algeria's fascinating destinations, you and I, together. The northeast region of Algeria is diverse and fascinating to say the least. With its majestic rugged coastline, high plains, breathtaking mountain ranges, picturesque farmlands and sunny beaches, tourists flock to the various cities and towns located here. Algeria has many noteworthy sites and historical attractions scattered across its wonderful landscapes, and in the northeast region, visitors will find a new discovery in every destination. Traveling through this region is a great experience, presenting an opportunity to explore the true beauty of the country. Significant cities such as Timgad, Jmila, Annaba, Constantine, Betna and Stif are all located in Algeria's northeast region. The fourth largest city in Algeria is Annaba, and it is situated in the Annaba province, known for its exciting and varied nightlife and being home to some of the best beaches in the country. Annaba is a popular destination. Betna province nestles the quaint city of Betna, with numerous religious buildings and a warm atmosphere to welcome visitors. When it comes to historical destinations, visitors should look no further than Jmila, which is famous for its museums, stunning collections of artifacts, and the most well-preserved Roman ruins in North Africa. Visitors to Algeria will find modern facilities, beautiful historic attractions, breathtaking cities, and memorable scenery in the northeast. It is a region that combines the wonders of nature and the lifestyle of a modern society perfectly. Discover the northeast region and find the heart of Algerian beauty. In the second part of our program, we take you to the northwestern part of Algeria. The beautiful coastline and spectacular mountain ranges of the northwest region of Algeria attracts thousands of visitors to the destinations in this region each year. Visitors to the northwest region have a vast variety of destinations to choose from, including Saïda, Intimushant, Tiaret, Mascara, Oran, Rilizan, Mostghanem, and Sidi Bel Abbes. Founded in 1851, the town of Intimushant in the Intimushant province is blanketed with fragrant orchids, massive vineyards, and fascinating gardens, making this town one of the most picturesque destinations in the northwest region. Approximately 70 kilometers from Oran, a major city in the northwest region, lies Sidi Bel Abbes, which is also known for its breathtaking landscapes and is a commercial and educational center within the region. It is a city with a rich history, and visitors to the city will be amazed at the beauty and noteworthy sites located here. Oran is a vital industrial and commercial center for the region, and with its success in these industries, a bustling city has emerged. Visitors to Oran can therefore look forward to stylish art centers, great nightlife, beautiful seaside resorts, and quality restaurants.